What if your childhood playhouse wasn't about play at all? Stick around as we take you inside Diddy's hidden tunnels, a world of padded walls and red lights that don't quite scream fun.
Reporters in the courtroom and also these courtroom sketches. More testimony underway this morning in the sex trafficking and racketeering trial against disgraced hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs. So right now we're hearing again from a special agent with the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Reed, that's absolutely right. This jury is finally seeing videos of the freak-offs, these sexual encounters that Sean Combs and his ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura would have.
Specifically in the very tough, historically Southern District of New York. She is walking the jury through records related to Combs' hotel stays in Los Angeles.
The FBI found more than just tiny footprints and strange masks. It's what these tunnels are allegedly used for that will leave you questioning everything. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video.
Other portions of these videos, because each side sees this as evidence in a very different way. The prosecution views this as evidence of the coercion of the alleged sex trafficking that was going on here, where they were shown them by the prosecution yesterday, and they're watching these in a way where we don't know exactly what they're seeing. They're wearing headphones in the courtroom, there are blinders on their screens, and now the defense is actually, during cross-examination, also showing them. There was an article that came out that had some information from a sealed proceeding, and he's very upset about this. He says it's a violation. The defense wants to show that these were consensual encounters, even if maybe some view them as unorthodox.
At first glance, it was innocent enough. A playhouse with cartoonish clouds, bright primary colors, and a cheerful sign that might as well have said, "Fun lives here." But behind those painted fiberglass walls was a secret no one was meant to find. The maintenance worker who stumbled upon it thought he was just fixing a plumbing issue. Instead, he lifted a loose floor panel and uncovered an entry into a bizarre underground world, a network of tunnels that would give any horror movie set a run for its money.
None of the reports on the CNN website about the raids on Puffy's properties talk about the discovery of underground tunnels. This is not mentioned on any other social media accounts either. Ditto for any other reputable news outlets at the time of my jibber-jabbering today. Ran with the idea like a plausible conspiracy theory. And then CNN representatives were like, hey, that is a manipulated image, not something CNN reported. Emily Kunz said that very clearly. The home does have a pool. It does have a grotto that is connected by an underwater swimming tunnel. Thank you, Los Angeles Times, for reporting that in 2014. But there are no other credible reports about any other underground tunnels in his home.
The entrance was small, leading to a narrow pathway almost too perfect to be accidental. His flashlight beam swept across the walls, revealing something immediately off-putting. Padded insulation, stitched tightly like the inside of an old psychiatric ward. The lighting was dim and red, giving the place a nightmarish glow. And the floor, tiny shoe prints, hundreds of them, ran in every direction, like a group had been running circles down there. But the thing was, no children were around. None had been seen near this playhouse in years. As he went further, things got progressively more disturbing. There were grotesque animal masks sitting neatly on shelves, their fur matted like they had been used for something much rougher than dress-up. A large two-way mirror stretched across one of the walls, angled perfectly to allow someone to observe without being seen.
Both parties said they didn't know what was going on. He says someone is lying and he's going to investigate because information from a sealed proceeding is not supposed to leave his chambers. Some of the evidence that we've been seeing is what was happening behind the scenes. So that Intercontinental Hotel incident where Combs appeared to assault Cassie Ventura on video, we saw these records of him writing her. He was telling her that he was going to be arrested.
It was clear these weren't remnants of any innocent past. Walking further into the tunnels, he noticed they seemed to twist without end, each hallway leading to another, looping in a way that made the entire layout feel like an intentional trap. There were no windows, no visible exits, just corridors designed to confuse. And then there were the messages. Written across one of many mirrors in smeared white ink, the words, "Rehearsal complete, initiate memory deletion," stared back. These weren't just tunnels, they were stages, but not for kids playing make-believe. The maintenance worker may have found the hidden entrance, but what he couldn't figure out was who had built it and why. But that's where the FBI came in. And trust me, they weren't looking for toys. Speaking of which, who was really behind this performance? Diddy's ex-girlfriend stepped into his world at just 19, and as she described it, the entrance wasn't glamorous. It was a trap wrapped in velvet. At first, it felt like living out a fantasy. Lavish nights, glittering parties, and promises of love that came tied up with extravagant gifts. But all of that had a price, and that price wasn't her silence, it was her reality. According to her testimony, the parties were never just celebrations. They were Wild King nights, an ongoing production, choreographed down to the last detail. She recounted being handed outfits that felt almost cartoonish in their specificity. A baby pink velvet ensemble one night, a feather-trimmed outfit another. "This is what love looks like," read one of the cue cards presented to her before the event, the phrase drilled into her like a mantra. There were others, too, with new lines written every night. Staff moved around her like well-rehearsed stagehands, adjusting the lighting, altering the music, a symphony of control orchestrated to create moments that felt intimate and spontaneous but were anything but. One of the key figures she described during these nights was Ava, a woman who always sat in the corner, sketching furiously in her book like she was trying to capture everyone's darkest shadows. Ava wasn't just an observer. She seemed to guide the night's narrative without ever speaking, her pen scratching out the architecture of the chaos. And then there was the man in the red gloves, the supposed director of these unsettling performances. He whispered instructions quietly, never shouting but controlling the room all the same. Lines like, "You already said yes, say it again for the tape," became burned into her memory, though she wasn't sure whether they had been her words or his. This wasn't assault, it was production, she told investigators, and her words carried a bitter clarity. These events weren't just acts of cruelty, they were recorded, rehearsed, and replayed, blurring the line between authenticity and manipulation. And if the testimony wasn't disturbing enough, wait until you hear what the audio recordings revealed. This wasn't some random scandal plastered on gossip sites. It was an operation, carefully engineered. It turned suffering into set design, with scripts, two-way mirrors, and cue cards that made even reality feel rehearsed. The so-called play tunnels weren't designed for fun. They were constructed for control, their padded walls echoing the eeriness of controlled chaos. So, what's more chilling, the tunnels themselves or the deliberate manipulation that took place inside them? Diddy's play tunnels weren't just a stage for disturbing performances. They were a mirror reflecting something much darker. And the real question is, who was holding the mirror?